Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Wen Game. For this episode, we have a very special guest. We have David from Kippo slash Kippoverse. Hi David, what's good?
Hey, what's up, Yoon? How you doing, man?
Good, good. Yo, let's talk a little bit about who you are and get you familiar with the Magic Eden community. So yeah, let's start there. Who are you, David? What did you do before? And yeah, why are you working on Kippo now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm David. I am an engineer. I'm a product designer, and I've been in the startup space for a while. I've actually been in the cryptocurrency space for a while too. I started out mining Bitcoin from my personal gaming computer back in 2012. This was when I was in college, and I was actually one of the first people to buy an ASICs miner from Butterfly Labs. So some of you guys know that reference, right? Kind of dating myself. So I've been in the crypto space for quite some time, and then NFTs back when CryptoKitties started blowing up. So it's been a space that I've really been interested in, and that kind of dives into what we're doing in terms of Kippo. But before Kippo, I was the one of the first engineers and a product lead at a pretty notorious company called Raya. It's kind of known as like the celebrity dating app, right? That's kind of how like the media paints us. But when in the early days, what we were building was a private network for creatives. So my whole background is creating consumer products about building communities and thinking about what it means to interact online. And everything that I've learned from there and throughout my entire life has come together with Kipovers.
Mm. So one point I really want to highlight and I want to learn more about is your experience as a founder of a startup and a full-on app. So a lot of people don't know, but Kippo isn't just an NFT project. Kippo was something before, and now there's NFTs and Web3s added onto it. And it was also a pretty successful product. So yeah, please tell us a little bit more about Kippo and what it was before so people have context on what they're getting into.
Yeah, so a little bit of origin of the name Kippo, it's actually comes from it's a Korean word called Kippo, which means like happiness, right? So it's like the state of like joy and happiness. And the thesis behind Kippo, when we started this, it's been 3 years now. So we started this 3 years ago. The app hasn't been alive, like hasn't been live for 3 years, but the company's been going for 3 years. Was this idea that people are lonely and depressed and just there's this sense of sadness on the internet and social media. And even though people are connected, we're doing a lot of consuming and we're not doing a lot of like interacting with other people. So we had this thesis of a new sort of social platform where not only do you have a sense of identity, but you have a sense of participating on the platform, right? A lot of people use TikTok or Twitter and you just kind of like scroll through all day and you don't really interact with other people as much. Maybe you like something, maybe you comment, but it doesn't really feel like you're participating, you're consuming. So we thought the future of social media looked is going to look like a video game. It's going to be avatars. It's going to be this open world. It's going to be this kind of free form world where anything that goes kind of goes, right? Like whatever happens, happens. It doesn't really have an agenda. And that was why we started Kippo. And this is before the whole like metaverse thing, right? Before like Mark Zuckerberg was like the metaverse is the future. We launched this like 2 years ago. And, you know, kind of lost my train of thought there, but we launched about 2 years ago, and we have about 700,000 users on the platform. And our whole thesis is that the experience is what matters the most. The NFTs makes a great platform better, but we think it's actually really hard to just create greatness out of an NFT, right? A lot of platforms right now talk about kind of like branding, right? And I think that's a little bit of a cop out of brand is kind of code word for like we don't really have anything, but like brand, right? Because brand comes from great products, right? Like Nike was a great shoe before they were a brand, and because they're a brand, they can make T-shirts and they can make they can sponsor athletes and do all these kind of things. Same thing with Disney; they make great movies, so now they're a brand and they can make amusement parks and they can do this and they can do that. So brands come from great products and services. So Kippo is building a brand because we are building a community of people that love using this product and you love using the platform. Um, but the way that we see NFTs tying into what we're doing is that early on, this is like when Ethereum was coming out, we had this concept of digital transferable assets on the blockchain, right? We saw the blockchain as kind of like this, like a detached database. that we can build stuff on top of. And the obvious thing is like I've been a gamer my whole life. It's like, oh, skins, right? Skins, like, you know, Krambits in Counter Strike, like that stuff should be these like transferable assets. And then when NFTs came out, like when that smart contract was written, that was just like light bulb for us. Is like, this is what everything needs to be built on top of. All digital assets need to be NFTs. We did not think that NFTs were going to be like this, like prices are going crazy, like Bored Ape. This is before Bored Ape, by the way, right? So we did not think that's what NFTs were going to be. We thought they were just going to be like just a new protocol on top of skins in video games, and that was like the end all. So we're pretty impressed with what's happened to the space. A lot of good, a lot of bad, but it's all growing pains, and we're just happy to be a part of it and contribute.
Mm. So one thing that I found very admirable about you, and it's not something I see in a lot of Web2 founders, is how all in you guys went on NFTs, especially you yourself. You're constantly changing between your dead god and your famous fox. I see you on spaces all the time. It's not even giant spaces. Sometimes you're on spaces with like 50 people listening in, talking to all these influencers and getting grilled on your project regarding Kippo, like whether you guys actually have a product, why they should trust you, whether your marketing is real, whether you have the capabilities to do what you need to do. What really got you started into kind of getting in that NFT spiral and really being part of the community? Because I've definitely met founders that like to keep 5 feet away from the degeneracy of NFTs, but you're not someone like that. You are a full-on degen. You're right in there. So yeah, I really want to
Yeah.
know like what made you want to do that as a founder?
I mean, it wasn't like a conscious decision, right? I didn't like sit down one day and think like, oh, do I want to go like full degen, or do I want to like, you know, I think I've always just been a little like, I guess DJ. I'm trying to find a different word besides DJing, but I've geeked out a lot about stuff, right? Like even in gaming. Like when StarCraft 2 came out, the first one, right, Wings of Liberty. Um, like I just went like all like I play this thing like 8 hours a day. I would tell my roommates like I'm gonna go train, right? Not like I'm gonna go play games. I'll say I need to go train, and then I used to like go ham on StarCraft. I went to like every single LAN party, like every single tournament. Like I like organize like my school's like LAN parties and try to do like StarCraft tournaments. I organize like viewing parties for like MLG and stuff like that. I'll like get a bunch of people to get it. So I always, if I like something and something's exciting, then I always go ham, right? And that's kind of what happened was, you know, with I think one of the like early blue chip like Solana projects I got on was Cats on Crack, right? And when I joined that Discord and started like participating, it felt very similar to like the early days of like MLG, right? Where it was just kind of like everyone was like scraping together a couple bucks to figure out how to like carpool, and then like everyone pitches in like $3 of gas money so you can get there, and then you kind of like sleep on the floor, right? That's what it felt like. It feels like this, like I was always envious of like the early days of like Facebook, right? If you think about the startup craze of like when Facebook and MySpace and Napster, these things were popping off, it was a bunch of like young people sleeping on couches and like rooming together and try to build this thing, right? It was very raw, and that's what the NFT space feels like right now. It's like it's very raw. Like people break rules, right? I never advocate for breaking rules, but like you got to break some rules if you want to make shit happen, right? So people break rules. Like the laws aren't the laws aren't like really the laws aren't like not really quite there yet. So we just kind of like figure stuff out. There's definitely a bunch of legal stuff going on. There's definitely a bunch of unethical stuff going on, but it's this like move fast and break things type of mentality that's like really really exciting. And I probably degen into stuff like a little bit too much. Like my bags are way too Solana NFT heavy. Like my entire net worth is too far into Solana NFT heavy. But I don't know, it's just fun. And I talked about it this in one of the Twitter spaces where I was like, yeah, I get it, like back to builders and blah blah blah, but like the degen stuff is fun too. Like I have like burrito boys, and I have like I got into like the jemmies, and like it's just this like community aspect, right? And you know, community is kind of like a buzzword, but it is this community feel, and that's what I think attracted me to the whole thing. Like my NFT degen life is like there's some overlap, but it's kind of separate from like my building Kipoverse life, but it's in the same space. So it's definitely a fun space to be in.
Mm. So for almost every founder I talk to, I tell them to get a marketing manager or do the marketing themselves, and it's a full-time job, and you really need to do it well if you want to survive in the space because it's an attention-based economy. So on a day-to-day basis, there's about 40 to 70 projects minting a day on Solana, and an average trader can have exposure up to 100 projects just through Discord, Twitter, Magic Eden website, and other like hype mint websites. And it's incredibly hard to stand out as a project. I think you guys have done an amazing job in terms of building your brand and your social media. What were the strats that you guys used? And also, what do you think of the meta right now in general? We see Twitter accounts with 400K followers. Fullport Tom said this today or yesterday, depending on when this episode goes out. And I think it's really true. Right now, the Magic Eden account has about 250K followers. And everything we've done is organic. We've never paid for followers. We don't really do giveaways. How do accounts get up to 400K in this space? There's some shenanigans going on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's definitely shenanigans going on. It was a learning process for us. So we don't really have a marketing manager, right? We have marketing people on our team, and we have engineers, and have all these people, but we have a live app, which means people still need to be working on the live app, right? We still need to be marketing about the app and about the platform and these kind of things. So at the beginning, we try to shift gears for everyone focusing on the NFT launch, and we just found that like we can't split our attention that way. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna like solo this. Like you guys focus on the app. The app's growing. We're getting new users every day. We're getting new features, bug fixes, like all this kind of stuff. We've had our servers overloaded like 3 times in the last month, just from like capping out on concurrent users. So it's been a crazy process. So I just told everybody, look, let me just like solo this. We'll see how it turns out. And it was a learning process for me too. So I did all the giveaways at the beginning. I tried like the ship hosting 7 to 20 times a day route. That didn't really work. I actually nuked the Twitter at one point, right? And yeah, I mean, I can go into like the things I've learned, things I've done wrong, things I've done right over time. But what the point that we've got to is you want to find people where this is their favorite project. And I think it's easier for us because we have a live product, right? I would say that a ton of people in our Discord, I would even say most, right? I think more than 50% of the people in our Discord have downloaded the app and are active users of the app, right? And we can see, we can see our concurrent users, and it's funny, like we'll have people like, whitelist flippers come in and be like, hey, why is this Discord so dead? And we'll be like, well, there's like, 3,000 people on the app right now, like hanging out and talking to each other and using it. And when it's somebody's favorite app, they will organically tell other people, right? Kind of the whitelist grind is to incentivize. It's like a loose incentive to give somebody to get someone to tell their friends, right? So it's like tell 7 friends, and then we'll give you a whitelist.
So
what they
marketing
end up
tool.
doing is they just start spamming. Yeah, so what they do is they end up just spamming people, right? So they'll reach 7 people, they'll get 7 people to join the Discord, but none of those people will ever come back to the Discord, right? Something concrete that I can give you is we used to do first come first serve, right? That's like a very popular like Discord technique. You give like 20 whitelist spots to another community and say it's first come first serve. First 20 people that get in here, you get whitelist, and the goal is that you want everyone to rush in at once, and you get 50 people, 60 people, and then you give the first 20 whitelists, right? And everyone was telling me like, you got to do first come first serve because this is like, that's the way to grow your Discord, right? And that's the way to get the number of people on your Discord up. But it doesn't really matter how many people you have in your Discord. It matters how many people love this project and think this is like their favorite project. So we completely got rid of that, and we switched back to raffles, even though everyone said that didn't work. And the reason we do raffles is we write like a super long shill template, right? Usually it's like, the count, the mint date, blah, blah, blah. This is like a 5-paragraph essay talking about Kippo, right? And what we found is that serious people, like people that are not trying to like whitelist flip and all the kind of, like people that really want to like learn about the project and get involved in it, they will read the whole thing. Like it's not that hard. It takes like 3 minutes, right? Probably not even 3 minutes. Probably takes like 1 minute. They will read the whole thing. And once we switched to raffle and started writing this like really long description, what we found is we drop the raffle, like it starts, and before it ends, we have a ton of people coming in from that community saying like, hey, I'm from, community 3, I'm from, OK Bears, or from D Gods. And they didn't win a raffle spot. but they read the description and they're coming in. So what you're basically doing is you're offering whitelist spots to the community in exchange to almost like post a billboard, right? So it's kind of like a win-win there. And the way we've grown from there, I think most of our growth has come in the last week, has been people that are active in our Discord. They will invite their friends and tell them like, dude, you do not want to miss out on this. And that vouch is the best vouch. Not like spamming all your friends to join the Discord. Like one of your close friends telling you like, dude, you do not want to miss out on this. Like that's the biggest thing, right? We have a ton of like influencers. I'm not going to name drop, but we have a ton of like the influencers names that everyone knows that are minting, right? They have one whitelist spot, just like everybody else, but they're minting. But it's like, yo, like no strings attached. Like we don't want you to shill this. We don't want you to, whatever. It's just like if you want to be part of it. But naturally, people just talk about it, right? Like we'll get like an influx of people in our Discord, and we're wondering why. And we found out that like somebody was talking about Kippoverse in a Twitter space with like 300 people, right? So that's been something that's been happening a lot. So that's one like concrete technique that I can give. But yeah, the rest of this, I can talk about this forever, but it's gonna be the whole podcast.
Yeah. I think the space is so noisy right now. There's a lot of crap, and you really need to cut through the crap. And the method that you described is just arming your early supporters and getting true, real, convicted supporters and having them talk to their friends. That's really the only way you can organically grow right now. You need to borrow voices and you need to arm them with the right kind of info that they can share. And this is the same kind of advice I give to projects all the time. Make a one pager, something that people can easily share around, and really value prop your project and explain to the world why it's so good, and make it real and find the true first 1,000 supporters. Keep your Discord closed, because yeah, you can get a Discord of 10K, 20K people, but when it's not organic, a lot of it is just meaningless and it's blown up numbers and there's huge expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, the project flops.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let me actually talk about the Soulport Tom thing, because I did see that tweet, and I was actually curious about like because we have a lot of followers on Twitter, right? I think we have like 30,000, which is people were saying like, oh, how do you guys have 30,000 when products that have already launched don't have 30,000, right? And for us, it's like about half of those people are not NFT people. Like they come from the app, right? We have actually billboards inside of the Kippoverse that says like build your own land, find out how, and you tap it and it takes you to our Twitter. So there's a lot of people in our Twitter that know nothing about NFTs, and about 1,000 of our whitelists have gone to people where it's going to be the first NFT mint, like ever. Like we're teaching them how to like open a Coinbase. We're actually like panicking right now because we found out that the holding period for FTX is like, it's like 5 days for ACH and then it's 7 days. So it's like 13 days. So it's too late. So we're telling everyone to like make a Coinbase account. I think like 6 days there, because we're cutting it pretty close. We're teaching people how to buy Solana. We're teaching people like how not to get wallet drained. And then we're going to
collect
teach
links.
Yeah, and we might even do like a live stream on midday to kind of like walk people through where that it's the first people. But the reason I bring that up is because the way you get people to buy into your project is to prove that you can pull it off, right? And there's a lot of ways that you can prove that you can pull it off, and the best way is to already pull it off, right? It's like how can you prove that you can make money? Make money. How do you prove that you can make an app? Make the app, right? And right now, the only thing people have is like artwork, which at the beginning was fun, right? If you had amazing artwork, then that kind of tells me like, okay, this team, even if they're not the artists, they know how to find the best artists, right? If they're not engineers, they know how to find the best engineers. And it gives me some sort of confidence into that team. But when it gets to the point where every single person is getting an artist off of Fiverr, or like it's the same artist on like every project, right? It's getting to the point where you need to differentiate yourself with something, right? A demo, like at least even a demo, at least even like a plan that has clear details, these kind of things. And as soon as I saw that Soulport Tom tweet, the first thing that I looked up was I was wondering, I wonder how many followers Steppen has, right? Because I have this theory that a lot, if not most people on Steppen, it's their first NFT. They're not in the Solana ecosystem. They don't go on Magic Eden, these kind of things. They just know that Steppen is this thing. And I think they had like 500,000 or 600,000, maybe even more.
Wow.
Right. So that was an example of like, oh wow, that's an example of something where I believe that they have that many followers, because nobody in like the Solana, or like the Solana Magic Eden Twitter verse, whatever, that circle, none of them talked about Steppen until Steppen already had like millions and millions of users. So it kind of shows that the Solana space is bigger than we think. But I still think there's some shenanigans going on with these 300K, 400K projects.
Dude, the meta's been crazy. All these animal mints, I am so surprised by how much of them have minted out, even with instant listing. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about instant listings. Now, liquidity starts at the beginning of the mint, not at the end of the mint. That's when the price discovery happens. I'm sure as a project owner, you prefer the former where the mint completes and then the markets open up. What's your thought on this new instant listing with MCC and how it's affecting projects?
So I had a lot of like conflicting thoughts that like ran through my head when over the last like week or so. I think it's been about a week, maybe even less. It's been like 3 or 4 days since you guys started that.
Yeah,
I
time moves
hated it at
quick.
first. At first, I was like, yo, F you guys, like Magic Eden, you guys fucking everybody else over. Like I hated it, right? And but then I realized the reason I hated it, because I come from the ETH space and ETH is completely like, instant listing for everything. The reason I hated it is because of the hype meta, right? And the reason I hated it is because I said, most of the people that are in the Solana space are flippers, right? And that's not a bad thing, but they're flippers or day traders. They want to, get that quick win and then move on to the next one. And when people are flippers, they're driven by, psychology, right? They're driven by FOMO, they're driven by fear, they're driven by greed, very intense emotions. And when people are driven by really intense emotions, there's intense price action swings, right? So something that could have been a good mint, right? Something that could have been successful, if there's a sign of weakness, then and one person sells and the second person sells, it can just
Spirals,
snowball,
yeah.
right? This actually happened in kind of like in the traditional finance. This kind of happened with Facebook. Facebook IPO'd when I was in college, so this was a long time ago. But when Facebook IPO'd, it was actually a botched IPO. The investment bank, I forgot who it was that took them public, but the investment bank botched their IPO, and they didn't properly flow the shares out into the public market. So Facebook started dipping at the beginning. And there was a lot of fear because this was like the first like social media public company, and everyone was like on the fence about it. And when it started to tip, everyone was just like, all right, this thing obviously is a failure. Social media does not work as a real company, and it just tanked. And I think it IPO'd around like the 30s and then just like tanked down to like 15. And it was there for months before it recovered. And now you know that Facebook is like one of the biggest companies in the world, but even a real company with real substance can succumb to fear and this kind of this like panic, right? So I thought this was going to happen a lot, and it kind of is happening, but only if companies are built off of hype. If you're built off of hype, you have to. So I tweeted this thing, but I'm like shadow banned, so nobody saw it. But I said like, if you build off of hype, you have to constantly be building more hype to continue growing the project, right? But if you have something of substance, you have a jumping off point. If you built this much substance, now you need to build this much more, right? Now you build this much more. So it's a very iterative process where you're building on what you already have. Hype is hot, but it dies down. So if you have like a level 10 of hype, now you need level 20 of hype on the next round, and you need level 30 of hype, and it becomes unsustainable. So that's one thing I think about. I know this is like really, really long answers, but that's one thing I think about the instant listing. I do think it's gonna make people switch their strategies. I hated it at first, and then we switched our strategy. So we switched our strategy to what are people. One, we give whitelist to people that are longtime users of the app, because we know they want it because they want to build on top of it, not because they want to flip it, and not because they think there's financial gain in it, right? So we have a huge chunk of people that are only minting because they want to have a private land for them and their friends. And in terms of video game standards, the mint price is actually not like astronomical. It's not like getting other side for like 3 ETH or whatever. It's a very reasonable number where the average person can afford it, and a lot of people want it. And then two is we actually reached out to a lot of people that have been interested in the metaverse space for a long time and understand the potential of it. And these are the people, metaverse is
it's a buzzword.
It's almost a lottery play. Right, but it's a lottery play, right? It's one of those things where it's like this is going to go to zero, or if it's going to go to like millions, and there's like nothing in between.
Yeah.
Right. So the people that understand this, they don't want to mint it and then flip it for 3 or 4 soul profit, right? They're not in that game, right? They're kind of in like this is a moonshot play. So that's another thing. And then so if we think it's a real possibility that we drop below floor, right? That's always a possibility, right? There's going to be some people where they're thinking like they come from the hype mints. They want to get into a project, and if it's not an okay bears in the first hour, then they're out and they're going to look for the next one, right? A lot of people are like that. But we're confident that there's so many people that are asking for like 50 allocation, 100 allocation. They're going to sweep the floor. I personally, like, I'll tell you straight up, like, I'm going to sweep the floor, not like company funds. This is like my own money. Like, I'm trying to like liquidate some of the Degen plays that I have. Like, I'm going to hold this like forever, right? For me, it's such an obvious like risk reward play. And obviously I trust in my own ability to make this thing, huge. Also, we haven't disclosed mint price yet, but I think the mint price for what it is like ridiculously low compared to the theoretical value of what we currently have as users and how they're currently using the worlds. And it's a 5,000 count, right? So there's scarcity there. So yeah, that's a little bit of a strategy of how we decided to hand out our whitelists and how we kind of think of like the long-term vision of building this up.
Got it. I really want to ask this question, and it's something that I've been wanting to ask anyone that's building the metaverse or an online like land. Why is the land in metaverse scarce? Shouldn't it be infinite? Like, why is there a limited plots of land in the metaverse?
So I used to think that. I used to say that like the whole point of the internet is that you can just like copy paste stuff and have infinity, right? And everybody wants land, so like why make it scarce? So this is our philosophies. Everyone has a home inside of Kippo. You start out with a home. We call it home island internally.
You get
but
your
everyone
little
has a home,
box.
so no one's like homeless. Yeah, you get your little box. So nobody's homeless, right? So this is like the balance. This is now like if I ever were president, this is the platform I'm like running on, right? It's like everyone gets the basics, but then if you want more, then you like work for it. So the idea behind scarcity for us is scarcity breeds quality, right? Scarcity breeds excellence. If land is infinite and you have land, there's no motivation to build on top of it, right? But if a lot of people are clamoring for a small quantity of land, you're either gonna build on top of it or you're gonna sell it to somebody who wants to, right? Because the value of this thing is gonna go up. That it's financially beneficial for you to get rid of it and give it to somebody who wants to develop it and build more value on top of it, right? Think about land in kind of like the physical world, right? If land was infinite, like nobody would build on this stuff, right? But people come in, developers come in, they want to build malls, they want to build like buildings, they want to build experiences, they want to do these things because obviously there's financial incentives for them, but it kind of like makes the entire experience better for everyone, right? That's kind of like how capitalism works. So that's the idea behind scarce land and scarce anything for that matter, right? Scarcity kind of breeds quality and excellence.
So I want to ask a really raw question. The space is operated on hype and FOMO, like we talked about. There's teams that I would say are objectively less qualified that have raised more money than you guys potentially will on a much easier level due to where the economics were at, where the ecosystems were at, and also just by being a profile picture project and having influencers talk about you, it becomes a lot easier to sell out. Does that frustrate you? And does a very, very small chance of you guys failing to sell out where a lot of the lower tier projects with not as much accolades or as achievement as like a full-on app already developed, does that feel unfair? What is that feeling as an owner leading up to the mint?
No, it doesn't really bother me. I think it's a little facetious, but I think it's a little funny. I feel bad. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's people that are losing money. There are people that like get tricked into these projects, and then the rug gets pulled, or it's a slow rug. And I do feel bad for them, but I've seen this in every industry for the last 10 plus years. This is not a new thing, right? There have always been, during the dot-com boom, like every company put .com at the end of their company and they just raised like a ton of money and they didn't deserve it. They all went to zero, right? There's a ton of companies that even in the last 3 months, right? Every startup that said they were a crypto startup raised VC money. They bought a Lambo and got an office in Malibu, and then they ran out of money after like 6 months, right? So these are very common things that have always happened anytime there's a bubble. And it's happening again in the crypto space. Now, I do think it happens more because there's like zero to no regulation. Like there's like no regulation in this space right now. So I do think it happens more, but it's part of the growing pains, right? You have to get burned once to like learn a lesson, right? Like you have to get rugged once to like be more careful, right? Um, I've been rugged. I've never had my wallet drained. I'm like super careful online, so I've never had like wallet drain or anything like that. Like knock on wood. I mean, I've spread everything out. Like I have like one NFT per wallet, so I'm like extra safe. But I've plenty of projects that have gone to zero that I look back and in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I should have seen that coming. Been part of plenty of rugs in Ethereum and Solana. It's part of growing pains in the scene, and there's kind of a meta right now where everyone's saying like back builders, right? That's kind of a meta that's like on Twitter right now. Um, it's it's a free market, right?
Yeah, it definitely
It's
is.
not a charity, right? It's not a charity. So I think you should back builders because you will have a better long-term return financially as a buyer, as an investor. But this idea of like, I think some projects have that mindset of like, oh, I know how to code, so I'm a builder. That's why you should give me money, right? At the end of the day, it's whoever can bring the attention, whoever can bring the eyeballs, like they do, using this word loosely, deserve the money, right? And look at DGods, right? Like DGods is built off a brand, right? And then if they launch today, you would say like, oh, it's another like brand play, it's another hype brand,
Mhm.
right? But they pulled it off, right? And like, okay, Bears, it's a little early, but it looks like they're pulling it off, or it looks like they're like on their way to pull it off. They have a good chance, right? So we can't really be like judge and jury and say like, this is animal PFP, right? Because maybe they have something else, right? You can't say like, oh, this is just like, I mean, people say that about us, right? It's like, oh, metaverse play. There's like 50,000 metaverse
Yeah.
plays, right? It's easy to kind of like reduce people down into categories. So at the end of the day, I think the free market's going to play itself out. If people are sick of getting burned, they're going to do more research. Yeah, we'll see. This is a very like touchy subject, but like it doesn't upset me. That's a short answer. Is that it doesn't really upset me. I've seen it happen a million times. It's just normal. Just focus on us. Like our success is going to be based off what we do, not based off the market, not based off other projects. If we fail to mint out, that's our bad, right? It's not because some other project minted out, right? So yeah, we're in control of our own fate, and every project's in control of their own fate.
Awesome. So after seeing this podcast, if I'm really, really bullish on Kippo, how can I get a whitelist? When are you guys minting and where?
So it is easy and hard at the same time to get a whitelist. We have no whitelist grinding in our Discord. There's no like leveling up system, no anything like that. We try to find people that are truly interested in the project, right? When people come in and ask like how to get a whitelist, we say, hang out, vibe, learn about the project, right? It's very obvious who the active people in the community are. It's very obvious who downloads the app and who checks it out. It's obvious who points out bugs, asks questions. Um, and like, we're not gonna lie, we're gonna do a little bit of the hype stuff as well. We're gonna do like giveaways. We're gonna do like these kind of things to kind of like build the buzz. But if you're really interested in the project, it's easy for you to get a whitelist. Just hop in Discord, say hi, learn about the project, see what our roadmap is and what we're working towards, and you know, we'll get one in your hands.
Yeah, say you
I don't know when this
came.
podcast is coming up.
Oh, dude, it's gonna
Yeah, I
depend
mean
on.
we're launching soon, so
Yeah.
it might be we might have closed whitelist by the time this podcast goes out. But if it hasn't, then come in and say what's up.
So what day and where can people mint?
We are launching or minting June. I'm gonna mess this date up. June 16th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, June 16th. June 16th on the Magic Eden Launchpad, exclusively on the Magic Eden Launchpad. We don't have a time yet, so we haven't locked in a time yet, but we'll make sure to announce that. We'll announce it on all of our socials. But yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for doing this show. You were amazing. I normally talk a lot when I do these episodes, but seems like I just asked a question and you had such good answers, elaborate too. And while you spoke for a long time, a lot of it just wasn't fluff. It was really quality with substance. So yeah, thanks for being a great guest.
Appreciate that. Yeah, this is my docs too. So like, I guess this is my first docs. I just realized.
Oh,
Yeah, this
can
is what I look like if you see me on the street.
I thought people could find you because I mean, you run a company and like your name is out there.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
know.
if I
Like,
Google you, like
I
you
always thought
show
that was
up.
funny. Yeah, people always ask if like docs, and I'm like, yeah, we're registered like C corp, and like my name is there, and we have investors, and like this is a real company. But yeah, this is what I look like. If you guys, uh, nobody's uses LinkedIn anymore, so you can find me on the street. If
Right.
if I rug, you can find me on the street. Beat me up.
I know where he lives, guys. If they rug, I'll post it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and this was episode 2 of Wen Games.